Hello, English 46A students. I want to talk a little bit about William Shakespeare. Now, most of you probably know William Shakespeare through his plays. Perhaps you've read them, perhaps you've seen film versions, perhaps you've seen stage versions. Okay, I haven't seen enough stage versions, frankly. And I want to talk about the sonnets. Okay. By now, you can probably guess some of the things I will say. The sonnets have this very strong speaker. In the Mary Roth lecture that I just did a little earlier today, I talk about the difficulty of actually doing any kind of biographical research via poetry, particularly sonnet cycles. And I won't repeat that here because I talk about it in the other lecture. But one thing that's very that I will repeat is the idea of we can build up a character. It's kind of like reading a play. You can build up a character of the speaker because the speaker seems fairly consistent in the cycle. I mean, to introduce a different I, there would have to be a mechanism to do that. And in the Shakespeare sonnets, again, good material talking about it, putting it in a context of patronage. Shakespeare is proving what a wonderful poet he is. There's a thought that some of the sonnets and the non-dramatic poetry of Shakespeare came about because theaters were closed, or he was feeling out different career paths. Playwriting, being an actor, directing a group of actors, that was all considered pretty low down on the social scale. To be a poet who is demonstrating all of the wonderful skills and knowledge that these poets demonstrate, whether it's the ability to write, proper verse and use the form and be clever with a sonnet, the 14 lines, or a long narrative poem, whether it's a matter of mental agility on display, mythological knowledge for the elusiveness, right? The references to the Greek, to the Roman, in this case, gods and goddesses, or what have you. Okay. The sonnets, the speaker of the sonnets, the main character, the I, who calls himself Will, by the way, and a will is also a force of energy, a desire to do something. It's also slang for a penis. And there's always dirty jokes in Shakespeare at some point, not necessarily in every sonnet, but it was a body, exuberant, robust culture that thought the body, was a key part of who we are as people. As an aside, and I may have said this in class, in the Elizabethan period, in this Shakespearean period, your courage is in your belly. It's not really in your heart. It's in your belly. And we still say that. Like, you got the guts for it. That's where your courage is. And, those of you who are interested, you might just, Renaissance physiology and emotions. I think that's a Google search that might actually work. All right. I want to talk about a few of the sonnets. Okay. The character of Shakespeare in the sonnets, whatever his actual self was, the one in the sonnets is there are three main characters. There is the I, the speaker, Will. There is the young man, the fair youth, he's often called in the criticism, and the essays and all the writing on this. My favorite book on the sonnets just calls him the young man. Shakespeare's older. He's appreciating and pursuing a young man. And if you read the first sonnets, you'll say he's encouraging this young man to marry and have children so he can populate the earth with his doubles, right? With his like coinage, his children, and they will, in a way, come on, it's like a compliment. Like, wow, you ought to have kids because if they look like you, if they're like you at all, that'd be great. Okay, this is a compliment, and it is a standard duty in the culture, etc. The young man seems interested at times, not so interested at other times. Shakespeare's eye is interested more sometimes than other times, but this gives him an excuse to write poems of beauty and attractiveness. It makes him write poems of fidelity. It makes him write poems, gives him the excuse to write poems of frustration, right? I mean, by having a narrative arc, a dramatic arc in which things aren't always going well, there you go. You got material for poetry. There's also a dark lady, as she's usually called, an older woman. So you had the younger man, the speaker, and what's usually an older woman, but not necessarily older than the speaker, but certainly older than the young man. She's dark haired and dark of eye. And while Shakespeare, the eye, finds this attractive, it's not the standard, right? Blue eyes, blonde hair, pale skin, rosy cheeks. That's the standard in this period. She's dark haired, dark eyed, somewhat, olive complexion, probably in the way it's there. So she's a contrast. And one thing that'll stand out, I'm repeating myself from the Mary Roth material. The eye, that is the Shakespeare character, he's uplifted by his desire for the young man. It's usually framed as desire, love. In many ways, the speaker seems to feel that he's degraded by his desire, his lust for the dark lady. Okay, so we have a bisexual character, this I, but there's an emphasis towards appreciating the young man more. And none of what I'm saying is radical. None of what I mean, if you read the poems, you can see what it is. While officially male sexual relationships were not, they weren't, they could be punished severely, but as many cultures, the rich people, the wealthy, the titled, etc., they could run around having these relationships and no one's going to bother them. There's a huge tradition, right, going all the way back to and beyond the Greeks of a certain type of platonic love between a young man and his older mentor, and that's sort of the tradition here. I'm giving you all that because if you read the whole sonnet sequence, I recommend it and I don't recommend it, in the sense of if you try to read it all straight through, and I'm borrowing from a critic here, it'll drive you crazy. Okay, I tend to read them in bits and pieces and go back and forth and that sort of thing, because there's a story, but it's highly repetitive, and some of the poems are better than others, etc. Okay. It seems as if the sonnets were used by Shakespeare in an attempt to gain patronage. If he could have been accepted as this poet of sonnets and narrative poems, and brought into the household of a lord, an earl, a duke, a baron, whatever it might be, he'd be set for a while, right? This would be, his, and then you make connections, and maybe you end up becoming a diplomat the way Chaucer was, things like that. Okay, Shakespeare, the sonnets. I could easily talk about all of them. I'm not going to. I am going to talk about a few. So there are many recurring themes, and again, read the material in the Norton about the sonnets. It will set up these themes like the idea of time, mortality, death, right? That's all coming. And, for example, if we look at number 12, when I do count the clock that tells the time and see the brave day sunk in hideous night, when I behold the violet past prime and sable curls all silvered with white, when lofty trees I see barren of leaves, which erst from heat did canopy the herd, and summer's green all girded up in sheaves, borne on the bier with white and bristly beard, then, okay, we had when, then of thy beauty do I question make, that thou among the waste of time must go, since sweets and beauties do themselves forsake, and die as fast as they see others grow. And nothing gainst time's scythe can make defense, save breed to brave him when he takes thee hence. This is about time, immortality, and decay. And we get lots of these examples about that the speaker is noticing about how things decay and fail. And in this case, looking at that part of the world frustrates the speaker. When, then, of thy beauty do I question make, that thou among the waste of time must go? You're so handsome, young man. You're so beautiful. You should not die. You should not decay. And we've already had, 6 different versions of decay. But the only thing that'll save you is breeding, that is having children. Okay, that, I believe, is the main line in the first 17 sonnets. And then 18 changes a little bit. We're still picking up this world of nature and the problem of time. And in 18, number 18, there's this idea of, how can I make you really understand how I see and appreciate your beauty? Okay? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Okay. Should I, is that what I should do in this poem this time? It's like there's summer, there's you. And this isn't a real question. This is a rhetorical question, because just based on the next line, there's like, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? No. You're better. Okay, and I'm going to clarify that. Okay. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Okay, you're more lovely, you're more temperate. It's too hot, the wind blows too much. It doesn't last long enough. You're way better than any of that. Okay? Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines. Okay, that's an Anglo-Saxonism, right? The eye of heaven for the sun, a kenning. And often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. Period. Let's pause. Okay. Sometimes the sun's too hot. Sometimes there's clouds. You're better than that. Your beauty is constant. But, and every beautiful thing from the state of being beautiful declines. This is a truth, unless chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. If you potentially say, gray hair's coming, hey, put some dye on it, change nature's course, then maybe it won't look so bad, right? That kind of thing. That's the kind of idea that's being presented here. Or, some people just look young a long, long time, or their chance. That's the chance part in that line. Okay. We had this set up about how, should I compare you to summer? No, you're way better for all these reasons. But, beauty will fail. Beauty will decay. The fair from fair will decline at some time, at some point. But thy eternal summer, here's the shift, right, with the contrast word, but thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair, that beauty thou owest, that you own, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Okay, your beauty won't last unless I write it down. The power of poetry is going to make you immortal. You'll be gone, but you will live on in my lines. This is a shift. And with 18, this is a shift. Other poets do this, but this is a shift in this sonnet sequence where suddenly the power of the poetry. And my cat is dimming us right now. Okay. One of the things that enters the sequence as a key theme. Let's go on. I mean, I could talk about all of these. My cat's blocking the light again. Hey, lady. All right. 29 is a lot of fun. And the idea, like, my life's not going very well. And, I might curse my fate. And all these things are going wrong. But when I think about you, and when I think about how I feel about you, that love, oh, man. It adjusts my attitude. And I feel so much better. That's the paraphrase. Okay. But I always think of there like a Hamlet character is delivering these lines. Okay. My cat's right there. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contented least, yet in these thoughts myself almost despising. Haply, perhaps, I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising, from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. Okay, you have a character who is not happy with his state in the world. By the end of the poem, oh well, wouldn't trade it because of the love. Okay? So, in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, some idea of, if fortune, luck does not shine on you, so bad things are just going wrong. People are looking at him. Is there a scandal? Is there like opinion against him? And so there he is wailing his outcast state. This in a way maybe like Wyatt, right? Out of favor. And trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries. Bootless means futile. Doesn't do any good. It's not related to shoe wear. It's more related to a treasure like booty, pirate, right? Okay. Pirate treasure. No, but in this case, not a pirate. Bootless cries, futile cries. Heaven is deaf, not because heaven is deaf, but heaven is deaf to these cries. Because you know what? Get over it. That would be the idea. And look at him. He's there cursing his fate, and he wants what other people have. Like to one more rich in hope. That would be in hopes of real, not having hope in the world, but rich in hope, expectation of success. Featured, he wants to have better looks, like that other guy. He wants to have the friends like that other person. Desiring this man's art and that man's scope. Again, footnotes to help you with those. Until, he's all jealous and envious of what other people have. He's not happy with his own state. And he's kind of almost despising himself because he knows better, right? He shouldn't be thinking this way. But then that thought of the beloved comes to this character. And it's like a bird singing at dawn. And he is lifted up. And he wouldn't trade it to be with a king. Now, the king part, to me, notice, he's wanted to be anybody but himself, right? He wants to be that person. He wants to be the other person. But at this point, he wouldn't have traded with a king. Okay. You know, you might think of it as an oblique compliment because, in that sense of like, yeah, you know, when I realize how, how royal or how wonderful it is that I have that love. Okay. 55 picks up 18. Okay. That idea that, it's a shame time is going to make you decay and everything decay, but poetry can outlast. This takes that exact same topic, runs with it. 55. Not marble, nor the gilded monuments of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme. Okay, in 18, we built to that. The end of the poem. Here, it's going to start right off. Bam. Powerful rhyme is greater than the mortal things of this earth. Not marble, nor the gilded monuments of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme, but you shall shine more bright in these contents than unswept stone besmeared with sluttish time, when wasteful war shall statues overturn, and broils root out the work of masonry. Nor Mars his sword, nor war's quick fire shall burn the living record of your memory. 'Gainst death and all oblivious enmity shall you pace forth. Your praise shall still find room, even in the eyes of all posterity that wear this world out to the ending doom. So, till the judgment that yourself arise, you live in this and dwell in lovers' eyes. Again, this is not just a tentative idea that maybe I could make you immortal in poetry or memorable. Here it's like this poem is it's so good what I'm writing that people are gonna keep track of it. They're gonna repeat it. They're gonna use it as a sort of standard of love and beauty. And it's gonna last till the judgment day. Okay. Bold poetry. All right. I love 60. I'm a water guy. So like as the waves make towards the pebbled shore, so do our minutes hasten to their end. Those waves coming in one after another. It's like the minutes. And you know what happens to a shore as the waves keep going? It erodes. So again, there's a power to the symbolism, to the images based in this world. All right, let me do another one. 65, more time, decay. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, how much time we got here? Yeah, okay. 65. Since brass nor stone. Okay, these things that we often think of like metal, stone, etc., lasting a long time. If you got that long-term perspective, they don't last that long. But poetry, that's the claim. Okay, now, come on, realistically, if the book gets disappeared, right, it's not going to last, but, it's going to be held in the memory. Since brass nor stone, nor earth nor boundless sea, but sad mortality o'ersways their power. How with this rage shall beauty hold a plea, whose action is no stronger than a flower? Oh, how shall summer's honey breath hold out against the wrackful siege of battering days, when rocks impregnable are not so stout, nor gates of steel so strong, but time decays? Oh, fearful meditation, where alack shall time's best jewel from time's chest be hid? Or what strong hand can hold his swift foot back? Or who his spoil of beauty can forbid? Oh, none. Unless this miracle have might, that in black ink my love may still shine bright. Okay, all that power of erosion and mortality, poetry will do it. And I love these last two lines. Hey, little cat. Oh, none unless this miracle might have power. Okay, it's that meaning of the word might. This miracle. So again, think of it. If it's a miracle and he's the one creating the miracle, again, by bragging or promoting self, the poet, But it's all in the service of love, so that then carries up the beloved as well. What I also like here is black ink, shine bright. It's a paradox, right? But it's a witty paradox. Oh, none unless this miracle have might, that in black ink my love shall still shine bright. I'm specifically not saying too much, I hope, because I want to leave room for you to work with some of these poems. But I want to model enough. Okay, I think I'm going to talk about one more on your page 733. And this will be number 106. And you don't know how many of these I'm passing up that I'd love to talk about. Okay, we still have that problem of time. And, you might say, God, they keep harping on this time thing. Well, if you think about it, it's true, right? I mean, death and destruction. Time. Okay. 106. When in the chronicle of wasted time, and wasted means past, not like, oh man, we're wasted. Okay. When in the chronicle of wasted time, I see descriptions of the fairest wights, meaning persons. And beauty making beautiful old rhyme in praise of ladies dead and lovely knights. Let's pause there for a minute. Ladies dead. Okay, like the beloved of the past, right? But lovely knights, that's kind of interesting. It's a little playful, it seems to me. Usually brave knights or lovely ladies and dead knights. Wouldn't that be the normal thing? But instead it's inverted, and that might catch your tone. It also might be a little bit of a playful game of the idea that the speaker is actually more interested in the knights, the men, than the ladies. When, blah, 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 then, right? Line 5. Then in the blason, and a blason is a catalog of excellencies. If you've ever read a poem or heard a song in which the beloved, is like, oh, her hair's so wonderful, and her eyes are so bright, and she's got the best smile, and her neck. Okay, that's a blason, where you do a catalog. It's often physiological in that regard. Sometimes it starts from the feet and goes up. Sometimes it starts from the head and goes down. Okay, a catalog of excellencies, blason. It might be blazon, for God's sake. I had a professor who always said blason, so I tend to say that too. I have a colleague who says blazon. Then, in the blazon of sweet beauty's best, of hand, of foot, of lip, of eye, of brow, I see their antique pen would have expressed even such a beauty as you master now. So all their praises are but prophecies of this our time, all you prefiguring. And for they looked but with divining eyes, they had not skill enough your worth to sing. For we, which now behold these present days, have eyes to wonder, but lack tongues to praise. Now, this one, to my mind, is saying a couple things. One, the old masters, the old poets, they wrote about beauty, and, they were good. Some of them were quite good at it, but really what they were doing is they were anticipating you. They were making prophecies of how you would be. They were prefiguring your beauty. They didn't know it, but that's what they were doing. They were approaching it, but they were the old school, so they can't quite do it the way we can. But even we can't do it. We have eyes to wonder, to appreciate, to be struck in awe. But we lack tongues to praise. And so this is a long way of saying there are no words to describe your beauty. But if you just said to somebody, there are no words to describe your beauty, they might not appreciate it as much. Okay, so there's this playfulness about, you read the old and, they were writing about you. They didn't even know it, but they were writing about you. Okay. 116 is a very famous one that I've heard at multiple weddings. And it runs through a system by which it's going to give examples of integrity, of trueness, like the compass points north. Okay, we won't go into the fact that there's true north and there's compass north, magnetic north, but etc. That's a lovely one. 129 has got a great intensity to it. And again, if you do that one, there's a savage delight in delineating the specific behavior and causality and consequences of this negative love. This is a Dark Lady poem. 130 is quite famous. But what do I want to end with? Oh, let's look at the playfulness of 130. Oh, no. Look at 138. 138. I hope it's on the list. I don't have the list in front of me, so I'm going to do it. 138. And my note in the margin says, add this one to the list. That's what I wrote a year and a half ago. Okay. 138. When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. Paradoxes. Okay, this is a classic one where it really gets kind of twisty. Okay, so you have two. You have my love and the speaker. When my love swears she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. So he doesn't really believe her. He knows she lies. He chooses to believe her. Let's do the whole poem. And it's built on this paradox. And I've had friends who were like driven crazy by this. But this is a period that loves that kind of paradox where you kind of have to juggle things, or it's like, but wait a minute, they said two things at once. That doesn't really work. But, you had black ink and you have shining bright. Culture loves it. Okay. So I like this poem because it's actually, in a way, it's a potentially sad poem about someone who's living in delusion. The stories you tell yourselves in order to get through. Almost done. 138. When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. That she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties, thus vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply, I credit her false speaking tongue. On both sides thus is simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not, she is unjust, and wherefore say not I that I am old? O love's best habit is in seeming trust, and age in love's not to have years told. Therefore I lie with her and she with me, and in our faults by lies we flattered be. Okay, lying with someone is an idiom for having sex, as they lie in bed together. I lie with her and she with me, and our faults by lies be flattered be. So there's that double speaking of, yes, they're having sex, but also I tell my lies. I trust her. She tells her lies. You're not so old. But he couldn't say that, acting as so what this relationship of mutual delusion, mutual empowerment. It's worth a little thought. I'm certainly not recommending it as a way to live, but as an accurate description of how some relationships actually work. Shakespeare can be really wonderfully accurate and complex. And that's one reason people read his plays, people read his sonnets. Okay.